In 2008, a neuroscientist named Terence Burnham ran an experiment. He gave people $15 and a simple choice: keep it or risk it in a game where they could win $22. Textbook economics says take the risk, the expected value is higher. But when participants had to decide while holding a cup of warm coffee, they played it safe. When they held a cold cup, they took the risk. The temperature of a drink changed a financial decision. That's not stupidity. That's the human brain. And it's happening to you every time you check your portfolio. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly which cognitive traps are costing smart people the most money and what the science says you can do about it. Meet Marcus. Marcus is a software engineer at a fintech company. He builds the apps that other people use to manage their money. He can explain compound interest in his sleep. He has a spreadsheet tracking his net worth updated every Sunday morning, color-coded with 3-year projections. He also panic sold his entire portfolio in March 2020. Every single position at the bottom, then bought back in 6 weeks later at a loss. The guy who literally writes the code for a budgeting app made the single dumbest financial move of his decade. Marcus isn't an idiot. He's a walking illustration of something neuroscience has known for 30 years that personal finance channels mostly ignore because it's inconvenient. Your brain is not broken. It's just running software that was written 200,000 years ago. And money is, 5,000 years old? Investing as we know it? Maybe 100? You are using a Stone Age operating system to run a Wall Street simulation. And then you wonder why it crashes. 6 bugs. Each one has a name, a mechanism, a fix. 2 of them are doing damage to your finances right now. I don't mean in abstract. I mean this week, probably yesterday. A JP Morgan study tracked retail investor returns over 20 years. The S&P returned 9.5% annually. The average retail investor made 2.9%. The market didn't lose that money. Behavior did. The bugs you're about to learn are the exact reason for that 6.6% gap. Kahneman and Tversky, 2 psychologists who eventually won a Nobel Prize in economics, which is a great flex, proved this back in the 1970s. The pain of losing money is roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining the same amount. Read that again. Losing $100 hurts you twice as much as winning $100 feels good. So what does your brain do? It makes you irrationally desperate to avoid losses. You hold a bad stock too long because selling means admitting the loss is real. You don't rebalance your portfolio because moving money feels like losing money. You leave your emergency fund in a zero interest account because at least it's not going down. The avoidance of loss is quietly destroying your returns. The fix isn't to care less about losses, it's to make inaction feel like a loss too. Instead of, what could I lose if I act? Ask, what is this costing me while I wait? Same loss aversion, different direction. Watch what happens. Not investing $1,000 because it feels risky is still a decision. At 8% annual returns, that non-decision costs you $4,660 over 20 years. Loss aversion doesn't just make you sell at the wrong time. It charges you for doing nothing. This is the warm coffee thing. And it sounds insane, but it's everywhere. Your brain in a calm state cannot accurately predict how it will behave in an emotional state. When you're calm, you set a rule. I will not sell if the market drops more than 15%. When the market drops 15% and CNBC is doing its disaster movie music and your brother-in-law is texting you, sell everything. That calm, rational version of you is completely inaccessible. You're in hot state. Logic is offline. Marcus knows this. He knew this in real time, watching his portfolio collapse. He knew it was the wrong call. He sold anyway. That's not weakness. That's the gap. You cannot talk yourself out of this gap in the moment. The only move is to make the decision before the heat exists. Automate your buying, write your sell criteria down while markets are boring, put it somewhere you'll actually see it when panic hits. Cold, you need to put hot you in handcuffs. Before the crash, not during. Your brain doesn't discount the future linearly, it discounts it hyperbolically. What that means in English, $100 today feels much, much better than $110 next month. But $100 in 12 months feels basically the same as $110 in 13 months. The closer something is in time, the more your brain inflates its value, irrationally. So you skip the pension contribution to pay for this weekend. You don't start investing because you'll start next year. You buy the thing now because future you can handle the credit card bill. Here's the brutal part. Brain scans show that when you think about your future self, the neural activity looks almost identical to when you think about a stranger. You are literally not saving money for yourself. You're saving it for some random person you've never met. The fix is to make future you feel real. Give them a name if you have to. Write them a letter. At minimum, automate everything so present you never gets the choice in the first place. Think about the last time you said, I'll start saving properly next month. Did you mean it? Of course you did. Present you always means it. The problem is, present you has no actual authority over what happens next month. That's a different person, and you just learned why. Quick question. The last time you bought something on sale, did you think about how much you saved or how much you spent? Most people think about the saving. It was 40% off. That's anchoring. The original price was planted in your head, and every decision you made after that was relative to a number someone else chose for you. It works in negotiations too. Jeff walks into a salary talk knowing his market rate is $90,000. His employer opens with $75,000. Jeff pushes back hard, gets to $82,000, and feels like he won. He did not win. He got anchored to a fake starting line. The $75,000 became the gravitational center. Every dollar away from it felt like a victory, even though the market said $90,000. The first number is magnetic. You physically cannot just ignore it. The brain has already started calculating relative to it before you finish reading the price tag. Kahneman's team showed this with a Wheel of Fortune spin. Completely random numbers shifted people's estimates of African countries in the UN. A wheel, a random spin, contaminating judgment about something completely unrelated. Fix, go in with a number already written down. Before any negotiation, any big purchase. Your number, your research, your reference point. Write it before you walk in the room. The moment someone else speaks first, you've already lost half the battle. You've already lost $4,000 on this investment. The rational move is to evaluate it fresh. What does the evidence say about its future? But your brain won't let you evaluate it fresh because you already spent $4,000. And somehow, irrationally, that past loss is controlling your future decision. You hold the position. You hold it past the point of any logic because selling means the loss becomes official. This is why people sit through terrible movies, stay in jobs that are making them miserable, keep holding positions that every piece of evidence says to sell. The $4,000 is gone. It was gone the moment you spent it. Your brain just didn't get the memo. The fix is simple but uncomfortable. Ask yourself, if I had no history with this position, if I were buying in fresh with fresh money today, would I? If the honest answer is no, stop. The sunk cost is running the show. Dalbar tracked investors who panic sold in the 2008 crash. Those who waited 6 months to re-enter permanently missed an average of $200,000 in long-term gains. The crash wasn't the problem. The 6 months of waiting for it to feel safe again was the problem. The market recovered in months. The psychological need for certainty lasted longer. And this one's the most dangerous because it feels like wisdom. When everyone around you is selling, your brain reads that as survival information. Socially transmitted fear was genuinely useful on the savannah. If your whole tribe starts running, you should probably run too, because there's probably a lion. There is no lion. There's just CNBC. But your amygdala cannot tell the difference. The panic feels identical. And when panic becomes a crowd consensus, the pressure to conform physically overrides analytical thinking. Brain scans during market panics show decreased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part you use to do math, and spiked activity in the amygdala. The brain is literally turning off its calculator. The fix isn't becoming a contrarian, that's just a different kind of herd behavior. It's making a specific written commitment before the crowd forms. What would actually have to be true for you to change your position? When the panic hits, check that piece of paper. Not the ticker, not your brother-in-law's text. That paper. A 2014 meta-analysis of 201 financial literacy studies, the largest ever done, found that financial education explains just 0.1% of the variance in financial behavior. 0.1%. You could memorize every bias in this video and statistically it won't move the needle. The problem isn't knowledge. It never was. So, you've just learned 6 cognitive traps, how to spot them, and how to fix each one. Great. You're now one of the most financially self-aware people in the room, and it will make almost no difference. I'm serious. Stay with me. Knowing about loss aversion doesn't stop loss aversion. Knowing the hot-cold gap exists doesn't close it. There is a mountain of peer-reviewed research showing that financial literacy education, the kind you just got, produces nearly zero improvement in long term financial behavior because awareness is not a system, and your brain doesn't care what you know. Marcus knows this firsthand. He knew the names of all 6 bugs. He could have taught this video. He still panic sold everything at the bottom. Marcus eventually stopped trying to be better at this. He started building around the problem instead. Automatic monthly buys. Removed from his decisions entirely. Sell criteria written on paper while markets were boring. Brokerage app deleted during drops. Emergency fund at a different bank with friction between him and the money. He didn't win the argument with his brain. He made sure the argument never happened. That's the actual fix, not discipline, not knowing more. A structure that removes a choice from the part of you that keeps getting it wrong. Build a system. The lizard doesn't get a vote, it was never offered. If you want a simple starting point, in the comments, write one decision hot you is currently running that cold you should be making instead. Just one. That's the first thing to automate.